right. Welcome. We just shake it out, get really comfortable, and we're going to go through all of the joints in the body in succession to just get ourselves warmed up a little bit. And we'll start with the neck. So whatever neck movements feel good to you, you might experiment with pushing your neck forward and then pulling it back to see what it feels like to have your head over your spine. You might experiment with looking over one shoulder and feeling the stretch, and then twisting to the other side and looking over the other shoulder and feeling the stretch. And for some people, they like neck movements to be dynamic, and you might inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. And for some people, they like things that are more static, and that's fine too. So maybe you tip one ear to the shoulder and you hold it here for 3, 4, 5 breaths. And maybe that's what your body is asking for today. And then rolling to the other side for a few breaths. So ask your neck what would feel good to you today and do that. You don't always have to look exactly like me. We're aiming to release the stress in the body, to have the body feel nice, to release some of the tension. Maybe you do some slow neck rolls if that feels good. Maybe you look up towards the ceiling, not cranking into the neck, but looking up and lifting the chest up and doing a little mini back bend. That can feel really nice. And when you're ready, we can move into the shoulders. Some people like to do both together. Some people prefer one at a time. And same thing, dynamic is great. Or you can bring some tension, pull your shoulders up towards the ears, and then let them drop with a big sigh. That can sometimes be really nice because our shoulders, for whatever reason, when we get stressed, they often like to creep up. And it's nice to pull the shoulder blades together and down the spine, because we also, in our modern society, hunch a whole heck of a lot more than we open up and let our heart shine and bring our shoulder blades together. You might like to do some bigger arm circles, incorporating the elbows as well. Or you might like to stretch the shoulders by pulling one arm across the body and holding that for a few breaths. And then switching to the other side. Ask your body what it wants. Ask your shoulders what would feel great for you right now, especially if you've already been sitting for a while today. It's nice to put some movement into your day, even if it's just getting up every hour and doing a few little stretches, walking to get another cup of tea or coffee. And then we'll move down the arms into the wrists, turning the wrists in one direction and the other direction. And you can incorporate this in with the shoulders and arms if you like. Both directions are good. And then if you tuck the thumbs, that'll even make it more intense. So if you're looking for more intensity in the wrists, that's great. Or less intensity, opening them up as fast or as slow as feels good in your body. And maybe you play with the fingers. You can touch the thumbs to the finger pads, or you could interlock the fingers and roll the wrists that way if that's what feels good. You can open and close really tight and then really open. Or you can use the opposite hand to stretch the fingers back and forth. Lots of options here. And again, you're not going to get to all of them, and you do what feels good in your body. It's just, if you only have 10 minutes to stretch, these are some examples of ways you can move from the crown of the head to the tips of your feet. We're going to move into the waist and the hips. And we'll start just with some nice circles in one direction and the other direction, feeling how it feels to lean into the sits bones on the left and the right. And then we'll move deeper into the hips with an individual hip circle. So I'm just holding beneath the knee. Some people have a lot of movement, big flexibility, big range of movement, and they don't even need to hang on, and they can just uh, you know move independently, which is totally fine. But I find I have a bigger range of motion if I give myself a little extra. You can also cradle the ankle and kind of rock back and forth a little bit. My chair is actually preventing me from demonstrating this very well, but you can kind of rock the baby to get a little bit of motion into the hip that way, remembering to go both directions, being gentle with yourself. It's easy to kind of overstretch the hips or put a little bit too much into that. So just be nice to yourself. Just be nice, and then we'll switch to the other side. So again, grabbing underneath the thigh or on top of the shin, whatever feels good. Putting some nice gentle hip movements, and if you rocked the baby on the right side, you can do it on the other side as well. Again, just bringing some movement, seeing how you feel. And then wiggling back into a nice seat. Maybe you stretch the legs out and bend the knee back straight and coming back. Maybe both legs at the same time and bending the knee. And then we'll move into the ankle. And again, for some people, it's really easy and the ankle wants to articulate and move on its own. Great. For other people, it's easier if you hang on with one hand and do it manually because you get a bigger range of motion. And that's the difference between mobility and flexibility, right? Your mobility is what you can do without assistance. So that's, what I've got. But my flexibility, I can use a little bit of help with this situation. It's with my other hand. And my ankle is actually more flexible than my mobility would suggest when I'm just doing it with no help. And we can do the same thing on the other side. So putting a little bit of articulation and movement into your opposite ankle, going both directions. Maybe give yourself a little foot massage if that feels good. And then once we've moved all of our joints, we might be ready to find a place that's really comfortable. And you might arrive in a different energetic space than when you first started moving. And so if you like to close your eyes, you can. If that's not comfortable, no problem. Just lower the gaze. Find a little speck, a little something to look at. If there's anywhere that is still tense or still feels stressed, breathe into that space. Let it relax. Remind your body you're safe. Remind your body that we are right here, right now. Sometimes the thoughts come and you can say, that's okay, I'm going to think about you later. Right now, I'm just right here, right now. And we'll arrive at the breath. So no need to change it. We'll do some breathwork techniques in a minute, but right now we're just going to observe. Figure out, where do you feel that breath? It might be in your nostrils, you might feel it on your upper lip, you might feel it coming into your sinuses. A lot of us feel the breath most strongly in the chest. So see if you can feel the chest rising and sinking. Again, you don't have to take particularly deep breaths. We're just observing. It's all okay, however you're breathing, wherever you feel it, wherever you don't feel it, it's fine. Some people naturally feel the breath in the belly. For other people, it's helpful to invite the breath down into the belly and to allow the diaphragm to help you out a little bit. Let the belly swell on the inhale and sink on the exhale. Let the diaphragm push those organs out as it pulls down and lets all the air into the lungs. And then let the belly sink as you push the air back out. And we'll turn this into a 3-part breath. So it'll be 3 short inhales and a long, slow exhale. And you can think about this as filling the belly, filling the lungs, filling the chest, and a long, slow exhale. Take it at your own pace into the belly, into the chest, all the way fill the lungs, and a long, slow exhale. So the pattern is in, out. Inhale, 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 exhale. We'll carry on like this for 5 more rounds of breath. Take your time. Whenever you finished this round, you've in. And on the end of the long, slow exhale, come back into that belly breathing, into that diaphragmatic breathing, where you invite the breath into the belly, letting the belly rise on the inhale and sink on the exhale, and let it be as effortless as possible. So yes, the diaphragm is doing the work. Yes, the belly's expanding on the inhale. We're not forcing it. We're not trying to take the biggest, super duper huge breath. We're just letting the diaphragm work its magic. Inhale, belly rise. Exhale, belly sinks. And see how this breath feels in the rest of your body. How does this breath feel in the hips? Do you need to adjust? That's okay to adjust. If you find, oh, actually I'm off balance, I do want to adjust. That's okay. Can you feel this breath in your lower back? Like by your kidneys and your low ribs? Can you feel the breath expanding the back side of the ribs? If you're sitting with your back touching the chair, can you physically press the back into the chair as you inhale and let it lessen as you exhale? Can you feel this belly breath in your upper back as you expand the upper lungs and the upper ribs? And can you feel this breath in the chest? The chest rises as the belly rises, and the chest sinks as the belly sinks. You can stay here, or I'll invite you to try a 5, 7, 8 breath. Some people like the breath hold, some people don't. So try it. If you don't like it, just come back to right where we are. This breathing pattern is an inhale for 5, holding the breath at the top for a count of 7, and a long, slow exhale for a count of 8. And you make your count how it works in your body. Inhaling for 5, holding the breath at the top, and exhaling for a count of 8. And carrying on like that. When we have our exhales longer than our inhales. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. It helps our body know we're safe. It helps us switch from our fight or flight response into our rest and digest response. These belly breaths help the vagus nerve tell our parasympathetic nervous system that it is okay to start repairing the body, that we do not need to pump cortisol and adrenaline, that we can turn those responses off, and that we can turn on some of the more calming hormones and some of the more relaxing hormones. Inhaling for 5, holding the breath for 7, and exhaling for 8. Inhaling, holding at the top, and a long, slow exhale all the way out. And this time, really push every little bit of air out. Hold at the bottom for a few seconds, and then let your breathing return to normal. In and out through the nose. Maybe you do a little body scan. How's my head feel? How's my neck? Can I be more relaxed? Am I holding any tension? Because sometimes we don't even know, and our shoulders creep up, or our hands accidentally turn into fists, or we find that we're really pressing the knees together in ways that we could actually be a little more relaxed. So how are your shoulders? How are your elbows? How are your hands? Is your head above the spine, or did your neck creep forward? Sometimes the chin wants to jet out, and we can just make a little tiny adjustment. How are your knees? Your ankles? How are your feet and your toes? And then maybe if you haven't already, you can start bringing a little bit of movement, just real gentle. Maybe you rub the palms of the hands together, or maybe you point and flex the toes, lifting them up off the floor a little bit. Maybe you walk your hips back and forth, or maybe you really liked the neck circles. You do one of those in each direction. And then when you're ready, take your time. There's no rush to come back into the outer world. We've had some lovely time with our inner world. So really take your time, be gentle with yourself. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.